Welcome to the Kawartha Small Business Podcast, where we believe the Kawarthas can be the most thriving region in Canada for small businesses. So we created a podcast where we have million-dollar conversations that help small business owners thrive. I'm Brian Rump from Profit Coach.
And I'm Matt Geraghty from Managing Digital.
And we're recording from the Thrive Podcast Studio at Thrive Co-working Community in downtown Lindsay, Ontario at 18 Kent Street West. And with us today is a local small business, big business owner and overall interesting person, Richard Gauder. Tell us about yourself, Richard.
Wow, good introduction. Thank you. Richard Gauder. We moved here 6 years ago. We've been in business since 9/11. And we've had a marketing company, marketing consulting company, and then got into the web development side. And then around 10 years ago, specialized in web accessibility. We're now a nice little going concern, have a good little business.
Awesome. I love that you say good little business, because when I think about business and small business, to me, that's the goal. It's like a good little business. So we're not here to be the Wolf of Wall Street or to be the next billionaire necessarily, but, small towns need small businesses that hold them together. And people like to have a good little business that's, going concern. It supports your family, but, you're not trying to take over the world necessarily with, your empire.
Yeah,
so I love that term.
We're kind of lucky that we learned that, the definition of enough. For me, I'm a business systems kind of person. So instead of a freelancer type of person, I like business systems that sort of run by themselves. And I'm still in the business, but it's a going concern. It's a business system. And then I use that and the learnings and the failures and the successes to do other things in the community. So I've got lots of free time to think, to read, but also to be in the business. So.
You started probably the first ever web design agency, did you not?
In the world? Good God.
Maybe Canada. You've been doing web design for what, 20, 30 years?
No, not that early. We got into it when one of the companies that I was consulting with was a software development company, and they created a proprietary CMS system, which is a content management system, and that allowed companies to update their own website themselves. And so I went around to web designers and said, hey, look at this. And they said, no, we don't want this. We update probably 50% of our clients' websites. And that's a big revenue model. So we don't want them updating the website. I thought, but this is the future. My wife, who did her co-op at IBM for 3 years, she ended up learning to be a web developer. And she's one of these smart people that go to other countries and learns the language. It's like, whatever. So that's, she came from the aerospace industry. So after 9/11, planes crashing into the towers, we thought, okay, well, let's do this. Looking back, we both sort of left our jobs and started a business. It was, looking back, it was kind of what were we drinking that day? It's been a ride for sure. That's not first. I wouldn't say first, but it was tough when we started offering hosting to clients. The banks wouldn't give us a machine because they didn't have enough experience with web hosting. And then this little company called PayPal showed up and said, hey, you want a free machine? And instead of charging us $300 a month, it was, yes, please. And then same thing with Tucows at the time. We became resellers for domains and emails. And so that sort of created, now it's expensive to get in the game, but we were early enough in the game where we looked at what we needed to do. And we're usually ahead of the game. It's just the story of our life.
So that time reminds me of sort of the age. I remember when I was in high school, they called us like, you're the .com generation, because we were like learning, computers were sort of new. So I was, late 90s. I started university in 2000. So just watching, the jobs people would get. So it's just neat to hear you sort of being in business right around that time, because I remember so much changing, in terms of like, even as you were a student learning something, and then it's like, oh, well, this changed. And, PayPal came, and then suddenly domains were a thing you could more easily get on your own. And, I know some people who in university, it was like the side hustle. They'll like lock up a bunch of domains and then go, sort of resell them because it was harder, to figure that out. But where I'm leading with this question is, were you the person who killed the term webmaster?
We had hats.
Yeah.
We gave the client, here's your website. You can update it yourself, and here's your hat.
Yeah.
That was kind of new. So did we kill it? No. It's like, hey, you're in
now
control
it's you
now.
versus
now it's control.
Because
we kill it. No, the enterprise systems, the large companies, they kill everything. Well, no, actually, smaller companies come in and kill them eventually, hopefully. But I'm lucky because I have a lot of wisdom in that I've had the before the internet, or just the beginning of the internet marketing side, and then the digital marketing side came. We started before Facebook was around, so we saw the evolvement of it, and it was an interesting ride in that we were, I'm a big believer in measurement. You can't manage unless you measure. So in God I trust, all others show me data. I want to know what's working, what's not, where to allocate the resources. So you saw through the data how things were starting to change. Advertising was starting to change. Companies were starting to change. We got hired and then fired. It was great. It's been a great ride.
What do you think's changed the most when it comes to web design?
I think when it comes to web design, I think it's broken again. When we first got into it, you had to know basics of web development, of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then this technology called Flash came, and it allowed graphic designers to do their own websites. We never went down that path. We've always stayed close to web standards. They're like ISO, right? Because the web isn't built around standards, and new products are built around standards. And so we never went down that path. And then Adobe sort of stopped doing that Flash. It wasn't supported. They're still doing it in schools, or teaching it in schools. And then open source. We were closed source when we started for the content management system. It was like your Wix and Squarespace of the day is what we had. And then when open source came out, WordPress was sort of the number one. And right now in the world, WordPress still has 40% market share. So it's still an ongoing concern. So we went into that. And then they started building themes that people could purchase, and they're making them pretty. So there definitely is a divide between web developers and web designers. Yeah. And web designers sort of buy things, make things pretty, and web developers like us, we can build the things, we can build our own from the ground up, sell them if we want to, but we sort of have a bit more knowledge in that if something goes wrong, we know how to fix it. So I'd say the biggest change has been more people becoming web designers, but not necessarily knowing code. And that seems to be continuing now.
Why do you think that's a problem? Is it a problem?
It is because of what our niche is, which is web accessibility.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that we went into web accessibility was because we were building to standards, and the step to build an accessible website is a very small step. So if you build progressive enhancement, you turn JavaScript off, you still have a website. The way we build a website sort of layered up, it works really well. And there wasn't enough themes, and there wasn't enough products out there that were accessible. And accessible just means that everybody can use the website, including those with disabilities. So if you're somebody that, say, can't use a mouse, you only can use a keyboard. You have to be able to navigate a website with a keyboard. If somebody that is blind, you can't see the screen. So you use an assistive device that speaks to you. So you have to build a website in a way that it navigates properly. The content is semantic. And very, very similar to search engines, Google's of the world. They love, properly built semantic websites. So that helped in and of itself too. Did I answer your question? Was that good?
Yeah, for sure. I love talking to you. You're one of the most interesting people I talk to. And I was just thinking about why during this, because you always give very candid, honest answers. They're very educated answers also. And they're not ego driven, if that makes sense. Like, you just are so great to talk to.
Yeah, like a lot of, I was just thinking in certain web circles, like some people will have their thing and they're like so passionate about it. And then it's like everything else is, ridiculous and you're an idiot for thinking that way versus explaining through, maybe why some of those things are. And the other thing that was just neat as you were talking through that is, things like keyboard accessibility, growing up before computers had a mouse, or like it didn't always work. So you kind of used to, learn how to navigate. And I was thinking it's been a long time since I've had to do that. And I think the last time I got frustrated because the website didn't do the things my brain kind of automatically did with the keyboard trying to, make something work. So I think accessibility is fascinating to me because it's like maybe one of those things that has been forgotten. And it doesn't need to be forgotten, but you need to pay attention to it.
To Matt's point about ego-driven and marketing, and the previous question about what's changed in that. And for me, as a business owner into systems, I just care about what works and what doesn't. And when social media started coming out, it would work in certain sectors, and at the beginning, your Google worked really, really. Google Ads worked really well, and then they started dissipating a little bit, and then Facebook came out, and that was the new thing, and it worked for a while, and it went up and down. And it's like there's some people out there that want their website to look a certain way, pretty or whatnot. And I, as a business owner, I'll tell business owners all the time, I says, you don't count, Mr. Client. You don't count, and I don't count. The only people that count is the one face on the other side of that screen. If you don't like green, I don't care. Do they like green? Yeah. And I remember having a conversation with a client once, and he was in the automotive industry, and he said, well, I don't want to use cars. I don't want to use used cars. And I said, well, hold on. Let me show you the data. 98.5% of people search for used cars. Yeah. Not what you like, which is pre-owned automobiles. Yeah. So which one do you want? Do you want the business, or do you want to, be the ego, I'm in charge kind of person? And what was the last time we went to a site that he sent a website to somebody and say, hey, look at this website. Isn't it pretty? No, you want a professional website that talks to the people. The better job you do of identifying who that one face on the other side of the screen is, what are they looking for, how do they want to see it, make it effortless. Don't make me think, then. And the reason I love accessibility as well is because if you have somebody that's accessible on your team, it sort of widens your perspective, and it drives design, and it drives how you produce something that is effective. And what's effective for people with disabilities. The same thing with the physical world. I mean, there's something called the bubble up theory, whereby everybody benefits from it. So in the physical world, let's say the curb cuts on the side of a curve of the street, they go down onto the street. Well, that's for wheelchairs. But there's people with strollers that aren't disabled that use them, etc. Right? And it's the same thing with web. How many people have used closed captioning, which is for people that that can't hear? But you're you put on a Scottish show on television, you don't know what the heck you're saying. You have to put in closed captions. We've all done it. So
I love it for like even watching Instagram on mute. It's like I'm scrolling through and someone maybe is like has some content where they're explaining something. It's like, I'm not going to turn it on and listen to it, but sometimes I'll stop myself and be like, oh, what are they saying? So it makes it better for everyone.
Siri was developed for accessibility, right? So it drives technology. It also drives technology, which is why, the AI stuff, I'm starting to get into it, because now, I'm since November, I guess, when they released the large language model, the chat, GPT, the the one that really, they were using it before, but to the world in November, it really got everybody's attention. And then when in March, the beginning of March, when GPT-4 came out, that was a whole other level of AI. So I've been curious. I've been to some seminars, I've been to some workshops on the direction and where I think it's going and where the business is. And it's been fascinating. It's been a fascinating, I don't think I've seen anything in technology that has got me this excited or this in awe, or I'm just fascinated by it. I had a climate change hobby for the last 25 years. And at the beginning, when I first got involved with it, it had the same feeling. It's like, this is huge. I don't think people know how huge this is.
Yeah.
They're starting to, but.
You sound very positive about AI. Are you?
Positive of it. I am, personally, for sure. There is the existential threat to humanity. We could all die. That's always a bummer.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Well, every technology has that.
Well, yeah.
If you look through the past, there's always like a group of people who think that. But yeah.
Well, it's just been the last few months. So the alignment problem, the what you ask for and what you get, in that alignment. And the people that have, it's been a fascinating reading. I just finished a book called The Alignment Problem. And it's been fascinating because they've been studying in the whole AI. We've all been using AI for years. People just don't know, but it's this large language model. It's starting to talk back to us. It's not just this cool little tool that you push a button and your photographs are all beautiful. Oh, that's AI. Oh, cool. Machine learning. It's now you can have relationships. It's learning. The challenge is that they're not the challenge. They're concerned that we're going too fast, and the models are learning from the collective, and it's centralized. And they're first worried that there's only one sort of company that will be centralized. And we'll go back to that 1984 commercial, the big brother. So they are slowing down. Governments are starting to go, okay, this is serious. You've had some pretty heavy hitters. But even the AI, the grandfather, what's his name, just came out with a statement. He's not saying we should stop. It's that we really need to be careful. It's hard enough for human beings to be understood, and we change all the time. And these things are built on models. Everything's based on databases and models. So, the GPT 3.5, it only goes up to 2021. Well, we've evolved a little bit in the last 2 years and things have changed. So it's, I heard, anyway, sorry, I'm just going to go on and on about it. So am I worried? I think what we're concerned about is that, are we allowed to swear in this?
We just talked about this. Like, we can. We're going to try not to.
Got it. Okay. So yeah. I will. So you'll understand. You'll understand.
If you say you will, then I think it's okay.
The funniest thing I think is we're concerned that machines will learn how humans aren't that
smart. Sophisticated?
Smart. Well, we're killing the planet. Yeah. Like we're not optimal. Yeah. We are not the optimal.
So like the movie I, Robot, where it's
why are you killing each other? Like, what's going on? Like, it's learning about history. Why aren't you learning from history? Why aren't you learning? I keep reading this stuff going,
it's like, why are you doing this ridiculous thing that makes no sense? Yeah.
I've heard this theory about aliens. We've gone way off topic, but like aliens have come to Earth. They realized that we are not optimal. And they just kept going. They're like, they're not even worth it. We don't even need to deal with these guys. We don't need to.
Just going to kill themselves.
They're going to kill themselves. And they just kept going.
Yeah.
What is there actually to be scared about with AI then?
It's that we believe that we can program a model that knows everything and doesn't misunderstand what our intentions are, and that's the alignment problem. So we don't know what we don't know, and a lot of times I think we've all in our worlds have done something and then looked at the consequences and said, "Oh, think that would happen that way.
Mm.
So that's it. That we think we know, and we're really smart, but we're not, and we don't realize that. So we're just human. We need to worry about being human, I guess. It's and it's being able to, though, take pieces of it and use it and learn from it. We should be concerned that if the models get big and you have an authoritarian society, they will use that. You can manipulate yourself. I don't know if you guys remember Cambridge Analytics.
Yeah.
So Cambridge Analytics was a company that sort of used Facebook in order to manipulate the sort of questions and things that people were seeing on Facebook. And I was warning about this before. I remember getting a call from a clearinghouse company, and for $2,000 a month, I could get the eyeballs of, I think it was a million people, and I could set up the demographics, who they were, how old they were. I could say, okay, when this person did this, this, and this, I want my ad or whatever it is to go in front of their face. And I thought, this is absolutely brilliant. And this is the most scariest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because I knew the psychological, you've got the RAND Corporation, you've got these larger military psychology organizations. I don't know if I'm sounding like a freak, but you can use it to manipulate. And so one of the concerns is authoritarian societies or governments will use this in order to manipulate or focus on staying in control. And that's one of the concerns of Elon Musk and some of the other ones, and why they want many of these. But I think they're all concerned about it. That's for sure.
This feels like this has taken a dark turn conversationally.
No, I think it's fascinating.
I think it's fascinating. It is. I think the scary part is the unknown.
Sure, and that's where fear comes up, right? It's the unknown. I would rather be in it and fearful than not go in it and still be fearful. I want to know. I at least want an idea, so I can speak towards it. Because there is, in our industry, and that's why I'm focused on it again, because it's going to be all about the interfaces. Websites are interfaces, and how we interface with, one face on the other side of the screen, sort of. Well, AI is the same way. We're going to move from text-based to video-based. It's going to become very, very interactive, very easy to use. And so will people get lazy? Yes. Will people do their own things? Will they become dependent on it? Yes, but people always have, right?
Yeah, it's always been. I don't get afraid. I love studying like innovation, or when I go down the rabbit hole of fear, it's like, well, humans are naturally curious. We partner. We have to collaborate. Things change. It's a tool, so there might be a up and downs, but there is that. Yeah, the interface, how we connect. We're going to find new ways we want to connect. Some of the unintended consequences will be good unintended consequences. And I just think back to like old conspiracy theories, like what's happened. An example is like, railroads or then like cars coming out. And when you look at North America and like the whole road system, like the way we live and the way we're organized is from a technology that's like, basically 100 years, like accessible 100 years ago. Like that's not going to stay the same forever. Like we're creating some new things now that might reimagine our entire lives within our generation. And it might be way better than like we think. We go down the fear standpoint, but maybe it's going to be, something completely different that's going to be way better.
Oh, like anything, there's going to be advantages and disadvantages. I think human beings are innately good, the majority of us. Technology has always driven everything. There was no internet when I started. When it came out, it was still black and white TVs, sort of thing. So there's, it's evolving and have become. I think the whole Mad Men area, the system that we have created right now. I'm not sure this whole capitalistic system, I'm not this whole thing. The system seems to be, people seem to be living in the veneer of life sort of thing through their habits. Just going through sometimes emotions, and they're too busy, and they're doing this. And they don't know
this is what life is, and
commercials.
We want it to stay the same, right?
We want it to stay the same, but how we're programming. If you ever watch that show, The Mad Men, when they first came out with the advertising, and you're watching some of the Russia Ukraine stuff and the Russian people, and you're like, well, okay, so how are these people thinking that this is a good thing, war is a good thing? But if you control the actual advertising system and the messaging and the television and stuff like that, you're gonna how people absorb the information. They're gonna see it in a certain way. And we never had TV for 20 years, right? And then COVID hit, and all of a sudden I'm starting to watch TV, and I'm looking at the ads and going, wow, this is why everybody thinks that. You get a big truck and you get the chicks. But it never works. Yeah. So we're the same way. So you have to watch it. You have to educate yourself, and that's what I mean. Move into knowing, or at least learning about it, so you're not fearful. That's the and the us and them that's created. That's the worst thing that you have to watch out for. This us and them. Always the us and them, because if you are different from me, then and if I know your buttons that I can push, I control you. So it's a very just be aware of it.
Where do you get your news from?
I get my news from Twitter. I get my news from, just lately, you mean?
Just in general, because in a way you sound like you're someone that doesn't believe the news then too.
I get it from Apple. Well, here's the thing about the news. You have government and you have privately owned. And I have an Apple News, so I can get my feed full of whichever I want. And I'm reading the same articles in the Toronto Star, in the National Post, in the Globe and Mail. And people don't know this, but the headlines are written by the newspaper. It's not the actual
the journalists, and they're usually mad about what the headline is, which is just even on its own is a great thing to know. That a lot of people don't realize.
But if I own the newspaper, like I am Murdoch, I get to say what goes on my television, my whatever. So I will go to, if I read an article here about another country, I will go to that country and see if there's an English type of newspaper and see what their take is of it. Because if you only read, and this is the way we were before there was the internet, it was just the newspaper. You read a physical newspaper, and you like the Star, or you like the Globe, or the National Post is a propaganda machine. It's Conrad Black's propaganda machine. I don't care. I keep reading and going, come on, people. I'm a conservative. I'm a progressive conservative. I have been all my life, but that's so people. That's the only thing they believe. Every single article is about, I hate Trudeau, I hate Trudeau, I hate Trudeau. Is that the news? I don't think so. But I don't know if there's an NDP paper or a socialist paper, but it says I hate.
They can't all get along to publish one thing, right?
So it's a balance. It's a balanced approach. You have to read a balanced news. Otherwise, you're going to be skewed by whoever owns that paper based on your views.
I, on Twitter, follow this eclectic mix of people, like the Democrats in the States, the Republicans, all the Fox News reporters, quote reporters, and it's just fascinating to me. You're seeing 100 opinions in 10 seconds. And I think that's the scary part to me, when people think to make their entire personality one or the other, single issue and single source of that narrative in news, and that's really scary.
I use Twitter a lot, mostly for that same purpose. But what it allows me to do, the internet is interestingly sort of the manifestation of the analog world. So if you look at what Twitter is basically a
it's like a ticker.
take it way back when, just one stream all the time of the stock market. That's what it was, and that's how it was created. So if I care about with the climate change work that I used to do, I followed the scientists that I care about around the world and listen to what they have to say directly. I don't want to hear the filter of it coming through a reporter or something. I would rather go directly to it. And that's what Twitter is wonderful about. What happened to Twitter was these bots came out that they weren't real people, and then they just spoiled it for a lot of people. Hopefully it's going to get a little bit better again, but
it sounds like our approach to Twitter is the same. I love it because I have curated, experts in certain things, and then I sprinkle in some balance of like stuff. And then I love when two people I follow are like kind of fighting a little bit or arguing about something in like a sort of nuanced and educated way, because the balance comes out of it. But all of that, it's not going to make, the National Post article or whatever filters out from there is not even going to be the same. Well, that's pretty interesting.
Did you listen to the Canada Land the other day? I forget what the topic was, but one thing that stuck out similar to this conversation was about the elite and the rich's obsession with controlling media and buying up news.
Yeah, I think it's that's a whole other conversation too, but it is like, people want to control what the news is. They like the idea of being able to do that. It's a way to protect sort of the system that people have. It's also what's neat about, we always would trust the newspaper, and then they become, scaled, and they're all really about selling ads. But then we loop back and we still, we have Twitter now where people still want voices that clarify issues for them or give that balance. And I think the concept of that was why, locally owned news, there's always a demand for it. It's just figuring out what the business model is. And it might not be selling ads, but then it's getting people aware of that so that they, might pay some money for news, because we love stories and we want to know what's going on. So it's that, I think, that soft skill of how we teach people to critically find the things that they want to listen to.
Well, people, you can't sell anything or offer anything that people don't care about.
Yeah.
I have the digs test. When people are writing blog posts or going clients, I said, it's gotta be an inverted pyramid. People don't read this, skim on the web. I says, and it's gotta pass the digs test. I go, what's the digs test?
Yeah.
And I said, do I give a?
Yeah.
So ask yourself, do people really care?
Yeah.
Are they going to read this, or is this just one way spewing out stuff for your search engines or your whatever? And that my ego looking at it, people really. Facebook is like, the should street. People should do this. People should do this. People are really interested in what I have to say. It's like, do they really though? Do they really?
This is funny because I think a lot of marketers specifically, and bad marketers even more specifically, are most afraid of AI, because I think AI sort of like creates all the stuff easily that maybe people don't care about. But it doesn't solve that problem of, do I actually care about this? And I think there's always going to need to be that human to human interaction of like, am I creating something for humans to care about? We can make a lot of noise fast and cheap, but I think that the other beauty of humans is we're going to find a way to find the good stuff. Like if Twitter becomes only bots, like most of us will be able to figure out like, oh, these are all bots. It's not useful for me. So we're going to adjust and find the stuff that is useful. And that's just kind of the cycle of forever in a way.
There's a couple things that you said. One of the things that fascinates me is that we are finding out by creating an image of ourselves. So as human beings, we create extensions of ourselves. I think I had this conversation on that before, where you create tools for your hands, cars for your legs, computers for your brains. We create these extensions. So this AI is sort of an extension of ourselves. And by creating it, it almost forces you to ask the question, well, what is a human being? What do we do good at? And the two things that these machines are forward, or backward looking. They don't have the wisdom. You will have to point them somewhere. They don't have the wisdom. They can learn. So that's the one thing. And they don't seem to have, so far anyway, it doesn't feel like very soul-like. You read something that they do. However, I belong to this UK writing group, and I did write something after the last launch of, I was watching it, and I wrote this little blog about the big rocket that went up and blew up. That was fun. And that was great, though. And I'm watching all these people, and the goal is to get past the launching
right
thing. Yeah. And I'm going, man, I got to relook at my goals. They spend millions of dollars, and all they want to do it. And then this thing starts going up, and you're like, and I'm thinking to myself, go get past the tower. That gets past the tower, and finally things start spinning around, and you hear people in the background, whoa, that blows up, and everybody cheers. And I'm like, what is wrong with my world? But they did show that you can have incremental, they're sort of waterfall, the agile approach, and you can have these. You can enjoy the ride on the way, and still do incremental approaches. But so the AI it does make you ask what a human being is, and that I've learned. But when I wrote that blog post, I have a chat open up all the time, and so I just had it correct my spelling and the grammar, right? Yeah. And so whereas I would spend hours, but it would be such a tough time editing stuff, or improving on it. And last week, and so I'm experimenting on myself. I'm seeing how I am using it, what I am using it for, in order to better understand it. I'm not telling anybody they should or shouldn't do it. This is right. I just want to find out, well, what is this thing good for? And what is everybody else using it for? First question I asked was, what's the meaning of life? Yeah. And then, there's different AI, it's not just chat. There's other ones from other companies out there already. So I have access to some of those. And so I'll put in the same question to see what the answer is and what is good. So it's one big experiment. Just like life, I guess.
I love the idea. So how many people would have read that blog post? Is it like a niche group that you're
I don't even know if I posted. I don't know. I'm trying to think where I put it. Oh, I did put it on Facebook just for my friends. I don't have many friends, as you could tell probably.
No, what I love about
who's the weird guy
is I thought it was maybe your UK writer group or one of the things
I post it for them for sure.
Yeah, so like you get people who are like, your friends, and it might be maybe a few dozen people from around the world. But if you were to go back 200 years and wanted to do something similar, you might have handwritten out 200 things you want to tell your friends, and then you got to put them together and hire someone to sail them around the world, and it takes months. And now it's like, I have this thought, I write it, I send it over to the AI to edit it, and then I put it on this machine, and it goes to these people right away. And I just think that's a really neat example of sort of the power of innovation. But at the same time, it's still just you thinking of something and communicating it to
you need to put the soul into
friends.
It. Yeah, you need to put the soul into it. That's for sure. You can like I said, only you have the wisdom to know what it is that is important. I guess you could ask me, who's the target audience? What do they need to see? Blah, 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 rate this and that. I suppose you could do that, and you probably will be able to. But the thing that people are worried the most about is in the next 10 years, the whole fake stuff, where people will create stuff that's not real, that's not the truth. And it's getting so real that people are in the next 10 years, that's going to be one thing. As a young kid, I always thought that our word would come back as something that is important. So, I never lied. I always speak the truth because I want people to trust what I have to say. And sometimes some of the marketing things, I just didn't like the marketing things because and advertising, almost like they're lying to you. You know, you know, if you like the truck thing, if you drive this truck, you will get chicks, or you will be tough, or you will be. Is that real? Is that really true? No, it's not.
Matt knows he used to own a truck.
Yeah, not unless on the other side there's you know the opposite sex looking at trucks and thinking that
well, it's a condition.
If somebody has a truck,
too.
they must be. You know, it's that condition. So that's going to be important, and I think that the circle of people. This is just me talking. I think that the circle of that you have around you is and that you trust is going to become even more and more important as AI makes things seem. Is this real?
Yeah, I think it's a great conversation because I think that is a danger, but also I think the technology to like seek out and fact check also probably becomes better. So it still all comes down to who do you trust, and do you find the people you trust? And when you said the word capitalism before, one of my favorite definitions of capitalism is increasing trust among strangers. So it was, back in the day, we would only trust, our family or people who are in our town or group, and then you start doing trade and, money helps people trust things a little bit more and more. And all these technologies sort of increase that trust. But it all still comes down to like, can I trust that other person I'm collaborating with? And we've just layered on technology. So, I'm curious to see, there might be more fake stuff, but it might also be, easier and easier to find the more real stuff. So even like you on Twitter, finding the scientists who you listen to and trust. It's like, you still need that human tool of filtering out and finding who those people are. But it's a lot easier now than if you were in your small town and someone came by with one book or, the encyclopedias. And it's like, oh, here's everything that's true. And there's nothing else, right? So it's a neat cycle.
Mm-hmm. We know so much in our phones and the access to information. We have more information than we've ever had. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Again, it just is. It just is.
Do you think there's something, this is turning into a really fun conversation for me,
Okay.
But just like, if I look at my lifetime as a kid, it was like, didn't have the phone, like, there's the great things where, the Radio Shack flyer, like from when I was, 1986. And it's like all of these things are now just on the home screen of your phone. Mm-hmm. But just the capability of humans to like learn how to absorb that amount of information in a short period of time just makes me wonder, like, we sometimes think, when's enough or how much can we do? But like, does that limit even exist? Or are we just at the start now of like,
you're just at the beginning
like 30 years from now, what's our conversation look like?
Think about this. So, and this is what worried the grandfather of AI is the difference is that with electronic learning, machine learning that learns, that continues to learn, these machines are sort of centralized learning, this big black box. When you and I learn something, we might share it with our little circle of trust. But these machines are learning a aggregate of human knowledge. Mm-hmm. And as more souls come online through phones around the world, there's going to be more aggregated knowledge, and these machines are going to learn more and more and more about the information. So what happens if we live in a world of where knowledge doubles every year or 2 years, human knowledge, because all of a sudden these machines that know so much can then go out and extract and put together things that work a lot better. So you say, how do you solve climate change? Do this, do this, do this. Yeah. Well, I can tell them how to solve it, just stop burning carbon, for heaven's sake. But anyway, a simple solution. A biotech. Okay, let's take a harder problem. A harder problem in climate change. It's biodiversity. how do we keep the earth and nature intact? And that's sort of a bigger issue. But maybe there's. I just finished another book on the genome and splicing, CRISPR, the gene splicing, and how we're coming up with solutions to splice genes so that we get rid of some of the generational type of illnesses. So they're working on some of the cancers right now. That's exponential. So what if AI says, oh, you know what, do this, or look at this. What if I go to the doctor? Instead of the doctor, I go to an AI agent or something like that that looks at your blood, looks at whatever the doctors usually do, but there's a doctor there. Maybe it'll look at everybody's symptoms, and it's not the doctors that have learned in school and with people. It's now all the knowledge and all of the data saying, well, you know what, you have this probability of having this. So their direction might be even more accurate than the professionals. And that's the thing. That is, all of a sudden, the people that have learned knowledge in school aren't going to be the smartest ones in the class anymore. And so everybody's going to sort of float up. It's a cool time. I mean, man, if I was born again, I'd go back. This is cool. It's just beginning. It's a very cool time. Very cool.
Yeah, this is so interesting, and I want to go a whole million different ways. So I think we may need to have another podcast sometime.
Anytime.
Monitoring our time here. So this has been great. Any other final thoughts, Matt, or questions?
No, I'm good. It's an overwhelming conversation in a good way. The AI thing is just not, I don't find it difficult to digest. I'm just a very naive, simple person. I'm stupid, I think. And it's just like, I don't get that concerned about the dark side of AI. I'm like, oh, it's going to come to this and that. I'm like, it's going to be all right. It's going to be fine. I think it's just one of those things that people are scared of change and they don't want to really deal with it. The AI stuff to me is fun. It's exciting.
Cool. Awesome. All right. What's one thing you want people to know about sort of what you do, and where do they find you if you want to be found?
Well, we don't do local business, so we're moving more into training and education across Canada for post-secondary education and for around accessibility. So it's a very niche type of market. So don't necessarily need to find me. I mean, what do I make your community better? I'm a big community guy, so invest in the community. I think that's going to be more and more important in the future. Small, big, do things, do something. Don't just do something. I don't understand why people don't do anything. They talk and they compare and they argue points and they cry when the Leafs lose, but they don't do anything. So just do something to make your community better somehow in this community, because we're laying the bed for future generations, and the more people in the community that do something, I think that's what I'd like to say to them.
How many 100-man groups have you helped start?
5 that I've co-founded, and then people call me and I help them get started for those. So that started around 7 years ago. I think it's 2015 was the first one. And that's the thing with being an entrepreneur, is you can see things and there's something here and you don't know what it is, but this is something people want. This is something, and it's like, okay, so you have to keep it going. That's because it's something you love and it's something that's good. So, yeah.
That's incredible. What, collectively $30,000 to $50,000 every quarter going to local charities?
It's every quarter. You mean?
I'm just thinking collectively, like all the 5 that you co-founded, plus
it's over $1 million so far with that for and all it was an idea. There's no bank account. There's no nothing. Keep it simple. It's a concept. It's a giving concept, and it's just somebody needs to put a box around it, say, what do you think? And people go, oh, this is what a great idea. What a simple idea, instead of we try and complicate things too much. And this, so it works. And hey, and then I got to get out. I need to get out and because I can,
Why do you want to get out?
Because there's other things, like the plant forest thing that we started. There's other new projects. I was a change agent growing up, so I'd go into organizations, I'd be president of this or board of this and doing that, and I'd always be on the board or whatnot, changing, doing new thinking. I'm kind of in the battles, and it's so much more fun not to battle old thinking. It's easier to create new thinking.
You are
Or
speaking my
new,
language.
great new, and then if it's successful, others will come. And so that's where I play. So I need to exit so I can then create other things that I care about. And there's lots of things. So plus I still have to garden and do all that. Keep my hands in the dirt.
Awesome.
All right.
I love it. All right, Matt, what's the thing you want the people to know, and where do they find you?
Well, I do want people to find me, unlike Richard, so I want people to know that not enough people know about their business, especially within the demographics of changing Lindsay and Kawartha Lakes, and I can help you get your business found on Google in less than 60 days. Go to my website and book a call at managedigital.com.
Awesome. And I want to be known as the business coach and teacher that helps your business get money with grants, increase sales, and streamlining your business for revenue and profit. Find me at profitcoach.ca. Matt and I would love to collaborate to help you launch, grow, or recharge your business, and we want to work with you. If you want to discuss working with us or be a guest on the podcast, send us an email to set it up at kawarthasmallbusinesspodcast.ca. And remember, we believe the Kawarthas can be the most thriving region in Canada for small businesses.